Hello, Math B Honors students. Today we're going to embark on a long and challenging journey of 1.2D lesson, solving linear equations to model real-world contexts. Now, this lesson is one of the most significant lessons of the entire module. I really hope that you watch this entire video because I will be providing as much detail as I can. And I hope that this video is a great resource for you so that you could even access this after class. Um, this lesson is really, really long. Maybe I'll do some in class as a group, but right now I'm going to just kind of skip around and I'm going to start with number 2. We're given the expressions. We've done this before in a previous lesson. And we're given expressions. We kind of have to see what do we do with that? What is the context we can write with that? So let's just take a look at our expressions right now. We can see that the number of quarters is Q. That definitely does tell us something already. We could see that the number of nickels is Q plus 5. So you know that the nickels is compared to the quarters. You could also see that the number of dimes is Q divided by 2. So again, we're always comparing to quarters. So that kind of tells us how we should write our context. And then obviously you see the value equation, 0.25Q, 0.05, that's nickels, and then 0.10, that's dimes. But what's interesting is, even I missed this, there's the equal sign right here. It's not just saying the value anymore. The total value is not really given. So this is kind of a more challenging version of the coin problem that you may be used to seeing. Okay, so let's start with writing, kind of like taking the first two expressions, and let's see if we could immediately write a context for them. So when we say number of nickels is Q plus 5, we would say something like LJ has 5 more nickels than quarters. Right? Maybe you do want to say something else. And you want to say half the number of dimes as quarters. Right? So that kind of gives you both expressions right away. Actually, all three. Right? LJ has 5 more nickels than quarters and half the number of dimes as quarters. Notice how quarters is always that second noun, right? So you know that we're comparing to quarters. So this is where it gets a little bit trickier. We're going to add the quarters, and in this case, it looks like the nickels. And we're going to say the total value of the quarters and the nickels is maybe $2.75 more than the total value of the dimes, right? Again, I'll write that down one more time. If LJ adds the total value of the quarters and the nickels, quarters and the nickels together, the amount will be $275 more than the value of the dimes. There's a lot going on here, right? If LJ adds the total value of the quarters and the nickels together, right? The quarters and the nickels together, the amount will be $275 more, which is this part, than the value of the dimes. Now, we've written the context, but remember, every context needs to ask the audience, the reader, to do something, right? So you would say, how many of each coin does LJ have? Right, this tells the audience to actually solve. Now, if you thought that was pretty easy, good, right? Hopefully that wasn't the hardest, but it definitely was something that we're not really used to seeing. And honestly, class, even this equation alone is pretty up there in level, right? It's not easy. It's not that easy. You're going to have to do a lot of manipulation. So the first thing I'm going to do is probably what everyone wants to do is I'm going to multiply the entire equation by 100. I end up getting, okay, so this is where we got to be careful. Please pay attention and follow along. I get 25q plus 5 times q plus 5 is equal to 10 times q over 2. Please make sure your q is distinguishable and doesn't look like a 9, right? Plus 275. So I've made the numbers a lot larger, and we kind of wanted to do that. So then I get 25q plus 5q plus 25 is equal to 10q over 2 is 5q plus 275. So you can see how there's a 5q here and a 5q there. It kind of helps us out by just getting rid of it. And I'm also going to subtract 25 from both sides. So now I've kind of gotten rid of this entire thing. I only have a 25q on the left side, and 25q is going to equal, in this case, 250. So I don't think the solving part was that challenging, as long as you just multiply by 100. You end up getting q is equal to 10, so I know that I have 10 total quarters, and then it's kind of like a domino effect after that, right? Then you know that you have 15 nickels, then you know you have 5 dimes. Now, with a calculator, it would be nice if you checked your answer by just saying, okay, well, so will this be true? If I have 10 quarters, that's going to be $2.50, right? Plus 15 nickels, which is, I know that that's 75 cents. And that's 325. And is that going to, if I take my dimes, and my dimes would be worth 50 cents, right? And then I add 275 to that, does that equal 325? And you can see that does. So you would say, I've confirmed with the context that LJ has 10 quarters, 15 nickels, and 5 dimes. That is the final answer. Ooh, I just wrote over the answer. That's okay. All right. Yeah, definitely, again, we're spending a lot of time on this, making this video. I'm trying to make this as detailed as possible. Let's see if we have space for one more. So this was a hard, like, this had so many layers because they asked us to write the context. Let's see if we can handle a question that just gives us a word problem. Okay, so again, let's review the directions. Always define your variables, write an expression, and then create an equation for the word problem. Write your solution in a complete sentence, and obviously show all your work. Okay, so let's start. It says, Horizon Phone Company charges $15 a month plus 10 cents per text. Oh man, that's a lot of money, 10 cents per text. G-Mobile charges a flat rate of $55 per month with unlimited texting. At how many texts would the two plans cost the same? Okay, so this is not too bad. Which is the better deal if you send 200 texts per month? All right. So let's go ahead and let's define a variable, right? We have $15 a month plus $10 per text. How many texts would the two plans cost the same? So let's call X equal the number of texts, right? We don't know how many texts you send out each month. I don't know. Who knows? But we do know that Horizon's plan, the cost is going to be $15 plus 10 cents per text. That's their monthly cost. Whereas G-Mobile is like, oh, we offer unlimited texting, but it's $55 a month. There's really no variable in G-Mobile's cost. It's a flat rate, 55. Doesn't matter how many texts you send. So obviously, you're trying to determine what's the better deal. So you kind of want to set them equal to each other, because when you set them equal to each other, that gives you kind of a ballpark amount of text that you can send per month to see which one is the better deal. If you send less text than whatever we solve for, then you probably want Horizon, right? And then obviously the reverse is true. If you send a lot more texts than the minimum text for them to be equal, then you definitely want to get the unlimited texting, which is G-Mobile. This is just a simple algebraic calculation. So I'm first going to subtract 15 from both sides, right? The flat fees are going to be taken away. So I know that 0.10x is going to equal 40. And basically, you're trying to decide, do I really... now, I could have written 0.1x, but I wrote 0.10x, so I had to multiply by 100. So then I get 10x is equal to 4,000. And really, you could see that x is equal to 400. So at 400 texts, both plans cost the same, right? So let's write that. At 400 texts, both plans cost the same amount, right? So therefore is kind of like using that information, which plan is the better deal if you send 200 texts? So since 200 texts is under the 400, therefore sending 200 texts would be cheaper through Horizon. Right, Horizon is the better deal. You save more money. Think about it. If you spent 200, you'd spend 20 here and then 15 for the flat rate. That would only be $35, and you have $20 extra as opposed to G-Mobile, right? It really depends on your usage. This used to be a real way for them to differentiate between companies, but it's not as common anymore. Okay. Right now, I think it's the perfect time to take a break, and stay tuned for part 2 to watch even more of the word problem videos.